With greetings to all my dear friends. I am Behruz Begum, and I am very happy to be at your service with the newest session of the comprehensive simulation package in architecture. In this session, we will get acquainted with 2D subjects and splines, which I mentioned in the first sessions that the spline section is one of the most important parts of our modeling, and we can easily start modeling most complex and vague shapes through splines. Okay, I'm going to go to our software very quickly. In previous sessions, we became familiar with one of the main materials for creating 3D models in the Max software environment, which was the geometry section. And now we go to the second main tool in modeling, which is the 2D topics. In this part, for example, I draw a kettle, and you see that it is exactly like a box, with the difference that this is a 2D subject and this has volume. And here we are free to use its ready-made presets. You draw these one by one exactly like the geometry section, and learn the options related to each section. Well, now here in our rectangle section, to have access to its settings, we go to the modify section, and here you see that a name, this reel, and the subject 2 and 2 here is changeable, and generally has 3 main tabs. Spline, meaning our first section, is the parameters section, which has different parameters specific to each preset and shape. For example, here in the square rectangle, you see that the length and width are changeable here, and the corner radius option is available for softening these corners and cornering these corners. Or for example, in our circle section, you see that only one radius is accessible in the parameters section. Or for example, in Ellipse, now here it sees for itself that it has a specific outline option. That is, we can create another ellipse from within this same ellipse. But guys, as you can see, these two fixed options, interpolation and rendering, are fixed in all 2D topics, which we will now introduce as well. But here now, as you can see, our shapes are gradually becoming more complex, and we have different options. Here, for example, in NGon, which is one of the most important spline presets, the first option is its radius. This is also the direction that it reverses, and here is the number of sides. Or the same sides, which is at least 3 sides, which is a triangle, and you can draw as many sides as you want here through NGon or polygon. Now, when the number of sides increases, it gets closer to the circle. We also have the option of softening these corners. Now here, the set circular option, if we click, it automatically turns into a circle. Now our next presets are, for example, donut, which I have drawn here. I think it has 2 radii. Yes. Our next option is star, in this shape. First radius, second radius. Guys, you can do anything with these. Now only its name is this star. You can draw special shapes here with this. For example, the points option is the same as the number of these nodes. For example, distortion also causes it to rotate in this way, and that you could also soften these outer nodes from this section, or the inner nodes from this section. Fillet radius second. Well guys, these 2D subjects have the ability to be converted into 3D subjects. To do this, it is enough to select the 2D subject, and from the modify list section, the final modify, we said these two modify means all the settings of this shape. But here we have a modify list. From here, we are going to learn very important editors, from here editing. Now in the next sessions we will become familiar with these editors in detail, each of which provides us with a very professional and practical option. So here I click this. I find extrude from this list and assign it to it. And now in this way you see that this 2D subject has also become a 3D subject. Okay, we are proud. Our next very important option here is Helix spring. You see that this volume can be very useful. For example, now we can use it in drawing the spring itself. In, for example, routing and drawing circular stairs in this way. We can use it and 1,000 other practical options. Well, now I go into the Helix options, and here, let's see what its options are useful for us. Our first option is the initial radius, the same as the beginning of our helix. If I look from the top, see that this is the first radius option, which if these are equal to each other, this circle is formed. Second radius in this way, and this height is the same as our height. I fix it. Our next option is themes, meaning the number of our twists. See that the more this number increases, the twists increase. It goes towards being a spring in this way. Now you can consider these as a path or the same route, for example. Okay, here, for example, I can give it a bias option, so that by reducing this number of rotations, it tends downwards in this way. And by increasing this option, all these twists, these rotations tend towards the end, or the same upper part. And our next option is also this clockwise and counterclockwise state, which the amount of rotation starts from this side, clockwise or counterclockwise. Okay, well now I can assign, for example, extrude to this modifier, you see in this way. Or for example, I can now assign the sweep modifier to this. Guys, I am using it, and please keep a background of its name in your memory here, so that when we get to the topic of its lesson, you will be familiar with it. Well, here now it was the sweep modifier that I assigned. For example, I put it on the bar state, or for example, rectangular, and here I come and increase its width. Now you see that the effect of these twists has caused us to not be able to have balance here in this way. Okay, the next topic that remains here is the section, which we will work with in detail later, and the Farid section also has a dedicated lesson for itself. And our next option here is arc. Arc also, guys, you can easily draw an arc with the help of this arc. Well, the way to draw it, I click and hold, I find the click on its second point, and in the next step I come and determine the amount of this arc and my arc, which is very useful, and I usually use this arc in all projects. Well, now we have two arc methods here now. Our first method is in this way that we select the first and second point and specify the amount of our arc, and our next method is in this way that we draw half of it and then we come and assign our arc around this. Now you can perform the drawing operation with whichever one you are comfortable with. Well, and the very important and practical option is line. Guys, all these options that we have said so far are almost 5% of 2D topics. But line is the most important topic of our spline section, which provides us with a line in this way, and we can perform the drawing operation according to our taste. Well, our method of operation is in this way. When our line option is activated, you see with drawing, click first, click second, wherever you click, it leaves a node from itself, and you can control them and take control of these nodes in your hands. Do you understand? Well, now I want to do my drawing with line. I go to the top view. First I come and restart. I go to the top view and start drawing with line. Well, when I click once, you see that the line operation starts drawing. In the next click, it creates a vertex and a set point in here, a node and here. Guys, these nodes are controllable and editable, which means that the center of placement of these nodes is important and vital for us. Well, so with each click, I draw a line and create a node. Guys, this yellow point that you see means the starting point of our line, which the last point that approaches it brings a message here for us. It says that, should I close this spline, or do you want the spline to be open? In the spline topic, we have two models of splines, open splines and closed splines. The application of closed splines is much more than open splines, which now with performing various projects, you will give many examples in this field, and you will see for yourself how important and practical the spline topic is. And here I click the yes option, and you see that this node is joined together here, and I was able to create a closed spline here, and now again, we can assign the extrude option, which we use to give volume to 2D subjects, to it here. Okay, I go to the roof view again, I start drawing with line again. Guys, when we draw a line, you see that sometimes this line of ours is needed for drawing some models. For example, our plan, we need to draw straight lines with a ruler. To draw this option, this straight line, I hold Shift. So easily you see that I was able to draw a completely straight and linear line in this way. And now here, see, I have mistakenly drawn a part of my line. It is no longer possible to completely erase it and draw from the beginning. Here we don't have Ctrl Z, that we press Ctrl Z and the line goes back one step. Ctrl Z for splines is back-based, which with each press of the back-based button, you see that it goes back one step. So this is also from two very important tricks of splines. One is the straight line shift, and the next is the back-based button to return to the previous step. And now here, if I want to keep my spline open, I click the No option. And you see that the joining operation is no longer performed here, and you can continue this line of yours, and now also close it to it. Well guys, here I draw a circle. Well, you see now this circle of ours is excellent from afar. Now it has no problems, but when we get close to it, we see that it has been broken. That is, it does not have that smooth and straight state of the circle, and it has a completely obvious break. Here, in order to solve these problems, we have to come from this section, the interpolation section, and examine our manipulations and these options of ours. So we became familiar with the parameters section, which had the options and numbers related to these splines. And now we go to our next option, interpolation. And this option, we said, is always available and usable in all 2D subjects. So here now, I have two options. One is the optimize option, and the other is the adaptive option. Well guys, this optimize option, here you see it says 6. I make this 7. You see what happened? This 6 became 7. It is as if we gave it a shake, but it is little. It must be increased again. 8, 9, 10. The more these steps increase, you see that my circle is gradually taking its smooth state in this way. Well, so here now, you see that up to 80, up to 50 steps have been added for this. Only guys, adding these steps is not just that you want to add as many steps as you want. This increasing of the steps causes this shape of mine to become heavier and requires more hard drive and RAM. So I have to save as much as I can in using these steps. Here you see that in 100th, for example, 100. Now, the maximum becomes, for example, in 50, there is no difference in millimeters. That is, it means, for example, up to this option, yes, up to 40 is enough for this. More than 40 has no effect on it. We only make our shape heavier. Even I can answer within 20. Yes, for example, up to the 20th, I can reduce this, yes, in this way. In order for this to be done automatically, we can use the adaptive option. Now I reduce this, I remove it in optimize, and it returns to the shape. It returns to its original state. When I click the adaptive option, it automatically and intelligently adds as many steps as needed, and in my opinion, always use this option. Now, in very complex shapes that need more control, you can also use optimize. So check that you always click the adaptive optimize option in your drawings. This is also from the interpolation section. Our next section, now I have clicked line and star, and now we are going to go through it in detail. Let me also say rendering in the rendering section, guys. You can access two interesting and practical options from this section. That is, in this way that we have two options here. It is written, enable and render in viewport. When I turn on the enable and viewport option, you see that this 2D subject has become a 3D shape. That is, it has taken thickness, and this is very useful. Well, here now, the enable and viewport option means only show it in the viewport. And we also have an enable and render option, meaning only show it in render. Well, the reason for this is also that when you click enable and render, it no longer shows the volume around it in the viewport. It is applied, but it does not show it. And this causes your scene to become lighter. Its only use and difference is only this option. And now I take a render from this. This should show this to me. In this wireframe, I add a little color, and you see that this option has been activated. Now that I have clicked this tick, it is seen in the render, but it has no volume in the viewport. Now, if I remove this, I click enable in viewport. Now it does not show it in render. It shows it here. Its difference is only this. But here we have other attractive options. From this section, you can set that this thickness is round, radial, or rectangular. Now I put it on the radial state, for example, and I bring its thickness and thickness more in this way, and I can also control my side here. That is, how many polygons it should be here, and even control its angle. See, now this has not had much effect because it is round itself. Or we can use the rectangular option, a rectangular or square shape. And here, we can easily draw the length and width, and here you see that the angle option can be useful for us in this way. Now this is also an option from the back of his hand, that you can give it a special shape in this way. Guys, we must also click the Auto Smooth option, so that it comes to soften it itself, wherever it needs it. Its intensity is also here, which you can now control from here if its intensity is too low. Now we have also clicked the cap option. It should show us the cap here. This is also here. This now in line also, guys. It has a big effect. See, for example, a line in this way. They come and draw. See why it is drawing in this way now. The reason is that the settings that I gave it are saved here. I go to the rendering section. These remain. I put this lower. First I make its angle 0. I make this lower, and this also lower in this way. You see? Or we can even put the round state. And we must also check that we set the adaptive option in the interpolation section. Click the adaptive option. You see how much effect it has. This is also from this section. Okay, we go to drawing our line. Guys, in the line section, when you start drawing, here in the creation method, you see two sections, the initial type and the drag type section. This first section of ours consists of two options, smooth and corner. That is, when you are drawing, when you are on the corner option, I turn off my rendering option for now. Okay, when drawing a line, if I put it, well, when drawing our line, you see that it is drawing these angular and sharp ones. Now I put this on the smooth state. You see that when drawing, it comes and draws these in the form of an arc and smooth state. These are each an extremely professional option, guys. That is, you can easily draw curved shapes with the help of this line as easily as drinking water. We also have a drag type section. That is, after clicking, when you hold the click, that is, you are dragging it. I put this on the corner state, and I also put this on the corner state, and now no matter how much I drag and hold the mouse click, you see that it is still drawing angular and sharp. The reason is that both of them are in the corner state. And now I put the drag section on smooth, and now it is sharp when drawing. But when I hold the click, you see that by dragging, it comes and makes an arc for us here in this way. Well, so each of these can be edited in its place. Now Bezier is also almost smooth. With the difference that you see, we are more free in the way to draw it. In performing the arcs, its own option also sees that it is shaking. This is the way to start drawing. In the line topic, what do I press so that my grid goes away for now? Well guys, now when I start drawing, for example, a long draws in this way. Okay, I come to its settings, and in the selection section, you will learn these in detail, guys. In order to edit your 2D subjects and change them later, we can assign Edit Poly Edit Spline for it. In the edit of 2D subjects, for example, in Edit Box, we said Sigil Convert in Edit Poly. Well, in 2D subjects also, in order to edit these, we must convert them to Edit Spline. And now we see that after I come to its parameters, it only shows these. But when I convert to Edit Spline, you see that it gives me different and practical options, and Edit Poly at my disposal. I think we won't reach these in this session. We will discuss Edit Spline in detail together in the next session. Well, but line is the only tool that does not need to be converted in 2D subjects. That is, you come to the Modify Fire, and you see that it has the Selection and Geometry option itself. Okay, you said, now I come to the selection topic, and I select my vertex there. When I select vertex, when I right-click on it, you see that here we can edit our nodes even after drawing. Well, that is, in this way, that now this is in the corner or angular and sharp state. I right-click on this and put it in the smooth state. The smooth state comes to automatically. These nodes of ours, without us telling it in what angle to soften, comes and softens itself automatically. Now I will tell you where the smooth is useful. Now in the example that I'm drawing for you, you will see completely that how we can control this intelligent state of it. And now I put this back on corner, and you see that it is angular and sharp, guys. In general, we have 4 nodes. Please write these down. Corner or angular and sharp nodes. Smooth or soft nodes. Our next options, the Bezier option. You see now when I put it in the ellipse state, it comes and gives me a handle that it is in the seesaw state. That is, I move one of them, the other also comes and moves. Well, we said our third option is always automatic. Bezier and our next option is always manual Bezier corner. Well, what is the difference between these? I put this in the corner state. We learned the corner. I told you, I put the root Bezier. When we put it, it comes and gives me a pick in this way. That is, if you want to control this arc, the arc below, exactly the opposite also comes, and the arc above moves. Well, only guys, when your work is finished and you saw that you made a mess, put it on corner so that it becomes like the first one again. And here, the ellipse corner option comes, and Bezier gives me two handles with the difference that these heads are each separately controllable, and this is excellent. In my opinion, we can draw any type of arc model with the help of this ellipse corner to the other nodes. Please practice these a bit, select all the options, become completely familiar with all 4 nodes. We have now learned so far that we can control our nodes, both when drawing the lines, and we have also learned how to edit these nodes after drawing. Okay, let's do an interesting exercise together. I go to the geometry section. I draw a plane in this way in the top view. Well, and here I have considered a photo in this way for our line exercise. After the end of this exercise, please do this once to have a complete familiarity with the lines. Only guys, please try to make this plane that you are drawing not have a skeleton state stretched out like this. Our shape will be ruined. Well, I hope its ratio is such that the proportionality of our shape is maintained. Now you saw what I did. I picked up the photo from this way. I dragged it on my plane, and it comes here to be drawable for me. I go to the slope topics and select my line. Well, and I start drawing from here. Only when drawing, I put this on the corner and smooth state and click. Well, now when we reach this arc, I can now click here once, and when I hold the mouse, you see that this arc comes out. Smooth in this way. Okay, I hold shift to draw, here again, here also in this way. Only how many steps you should put in for this arc to come out. In my opinion, practice a few times to get a feel for it. It is as if you put it suddenly, it exactly bends from there. I hold shift. I will tell you what to do with that part now. Because we said that we can use smooth and nodes both while drawing, and you can also after drawing. I use both of them in this part. Exercise, you see, I click and hold so easily it comes out, but now I want to edit these options later. So a click here, a click here, a click also here. Again, I also draw here with the help of this. I click in the same way, we come and draw our shape. After our work with drawing spline is finished. Well, the first thing that I do is to come and check if I have clicked on the interpolation adaptive option or not. Okay? I click adaptive, and now those parts that we said we will edit later, we come and perform the editing operation on it. Okay, I think this part needs another vertex. I come to the refine option, I add another burst here. Well, now I come and click on this part, and I put my vertex corner option on the ellipse sphere, and now the 2 hand that it gave me, I come and shape these arcs of mine so easily. The same for these 2 also. I hold control, I select these 2, ellipse corner, only guys, sometimes you saw that these handles don't move. This is a spline bug. Move this a little bit to fix it in this way. This option also I put on ellipse corner, and I OK my coil. I click this once to the corner state, I put it back to the beer state, and in this way, I come and compensate for my mistakes. Again, I put it on smooth, I pull it higher, see how much smart smooth comes to our aid. Exactly those parts that need a little change, it comes and optimizes it itself. Now kids, you can do all of these. I don't bother it much. The work is almost finished in this way. And now, deactivate vertex. And I come and edit this. And so easily you see that our shape is ready, and now I can give the shape a volume to it. With the option you see, activate adaptive here. Does not have much difference, because we do not have significant breaks. And these are given the extrude option. Well, up to here we have also become familiar with the very important line topic. In the next sessions we will go to become familiar with the edit spline topic. And its available options, well kids, you said please definitely do this exercise. You saw that in all the techniques that I said at the beginning of the session, all of them are executable and implementable inside this project.